Hi, everyone. I'm Kandi Mullen, and welcome to my channel. And today I'm going to be talking with Michelle Blais, who is an entrepreneur, truth seeker, and host of the podcast, The Wealth Within Us. And I'm really super excited to talk to Michelle. We talked a few weeks ago. She had me as a guest on her channel, and I just loved The Wealth Within Us. And I wanted to learn more about Michelle. So, welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Kandi. Thank you so much. And you and I've had some pretty good conversations since too. I appreciate you having me on your show.
Yeah, absolutely. We do. And we go off on a tangent. Before we know it, it's like an hour, 2 hours later. I think the other day we talked a little bit about 2 hours or something.
I think you're right. And everything from
Yeah.
flip-flops to
What's that?
everything from flip-flops to deep spirituality.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So, what I wanted to kind of dive a little bit more into understanding, because you are this entrepreneur. You have your own business, a very creative business, designing websites, logos, and you're doing branding strategies, I guess, for your clients as well.
Yeah.
And even before that, weren't you writing code?
That was how I got started
That's
in website design in the 90s. So yeah, so I like to say I can sling some HTML and some CSS, which means nothing to most people.
So you've got this techie and creative background, but you've also moved into, with your podcast, like, just, I love the wealth within us. That really just struck a chord with me when we were talking, and every time I go to your channel and everything. But help me understand a little bit, or the viewers, what was your inspiration from entrepreneur to this podcast host with a wealth of information? What does that look like? What was the impetus for you?
So I think I had always wanted to do some kind of a podcast, and the thought of doing a podcast on graphic and website design just did not excite me. I was like, yeah, that's not going to be my thing. And I got a company called LifeWave as a client, and we do light and frequency patches that activate your stem cells. And I had been working with them for a while, and I decided, I want to do that. I want to add this to my set of business tools. And I was working with someone else, and we were talking. I'm like, yeah, I'd love to do a podcast. And he's like, maybe you can use your podcast to help, bring all this stuff together, the patches and your all this stuff. So I said, yeah, I think I do want to do that. So me being my creative logo website person, the first thing, of course, I had to do was come up with a name and a purpose. So, but actually I had to say, I think I came up with the name first. So I came up with the name, found the wealthwithin.us, which I think sounded perfect because the wealthwithinus.com was not available, but I think it worked out to my benefit. But so I came back to him. I did the logo. I did a website, and I'm like, I'm all ready to go. So I go the opposite of most people. I do the logo, and then I'm ready to do business. So that's just the way my brain works. And we were on Zoom one day, and he's like, so when I'll interview you for the first episode. So when do you want to do it? I'm like, and I'm looking at my thing, and he's like, how about right now? And I said, oh, okay. So I started recording on Zoom. I had this, if you go to my channel, you'll see I had this white poopy thing. I swear I look like a snowball. But and that was the first episode, and that was kind of how it came. But I guess to ask the other part of that question is, well, why did I do it? I had turned 50 that year, and I really wasn't where I wanted to be. Like all these things, it had been a rough year. My father had passed unexpectedly and tragically, and my mom wasn't doing well, and my sister had asked me to move in, and it was like, oh my gosh, it was like all of these things were sort of in my face of going wrong. So you can either push through it or, do everything you can to kind of like you just want to get through it. Like, how can I get this? I see these things that I'm stuck. I was aware of my stuckness. I was aware that I wasn't where I wanted to be at 50. I didn't have even close to the savings I wanted to. I was pretty much, living month to month and all this stuff. And I'm thinking, this is what I want to do. I want to figure this out. And I know if I want to figure it out, how many other people out there want to figure it out? So my goal was to bring on people like yourself that had tools to help all of us overcome this mindset stuff, the wealth stuff, especially, and even our health. So that was really my goal, was to just bring the health, wealth, and mindset to people, because I knew it helped me on my journey, which I was just, I mean, I still am. I'm still there. I'm not where I want to be yet either. But by talking to everybody, I'm bringing this to other people. So instead of coming from the aspect of like, oh, I achieved this big thing and now I want to share this big thing and show other people how to do it, I came from the premise of, well, I haven't achieved what I want. I really want to figure it out. I'm sure other people do. So let's just do it together. And then it's kind of like that rise, everybody rises together. So why not? I don't want to just do it myself. I want to, why sit and struggle by myself when I've met so many amazing people, and then we can just all do it together.
Exactly. And I bet there's a lot of people, well, maybe there's some here that have that feeling like, feeling stuck, or this isn't where what I signed up for, what I think I thought I signed up for. It's not anything at all where I want to be. So it's interesting that that number was 50 for you, because I just hear it across the board for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't think I would have this thing. It just sort of happened. It didn't, I didn't plan it. Like, well, at 50, I wouldn't say I had a crisis, or I had a, what is it called? Like a midlife crisis. I didn't have one of those. It was more of an awareness, like, okay, this is where I'm at. So move through it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And, part of that too was getting down to the truth of, what you had always been told. And at 50, you're recognizing, well, wait a second, I kind of followed the steps. I put in the work. And what was the truth? Is that the truth for me? So, very interesting. Like, do you want to speak a little bit about that? Like, how you were, people that were mentoring everything, everyone from your parents to, your professors and teachers and people in your life.
Yeah, I think we're all told, do good in school, go to college, get the job, get the money, or do your passion and the money will follow. And I did those things. And you know what? Like, the money did not follow. And I would say money was the thing for me. It was like I was pretty much living week to week, month to month. I'd have surplus, then it would go. And I kind of found myself in this cycle of either just in time or just enough, like, oh, like we had a good life. I'm not going to say that we didn't. We did trips and all this other stuff, but we didn't have a lot of extra. So I wanted to be at a point in my life where, like, I deserve extra. So what's this mindset stuff that's going on? It's got to be in my mindset, because I followed the rules. I did what they said. I did all the things, and I loved my job, and I'm doing things that I love, but the money just doesn't seem to follow. But what they don't tell you is that it's a mindset, and it's shifting your mindset. And in learning that was the part that I wanted to bring to so many other people, because I know it's not just me. It's not just me that did all the things that you thought were right. I stayed out of trouble for the most part, and pretty much lived lived mostly according to the rules of society. But then when you're not where you are, and you're just, it's like you're slogging through the day, like, okay, here I am again. And really, it's the mindset shift that's what's going to do it. And that's what I realized for me.
And, I think too, we took almost everything that everyone ever told us without really sitting and saying, is that the truth for me?
Yeah.
Because I know for the way that I tend to, when I'm learning something new, oftentimes I don't get it the same way a lot of people do. So, and I have to get through to people, I'm not seeing it that way, or I'm not hearing it that way, or I'm not feeling it that way. And so I have to, and they're almost like in denial. Well, this is how it's done. This is what you do, And so I have learned over the years what my truth might be, or what works for me, is going to be very different than the person next to me or the person trying to teach me. And it would oftentimes take somebody to say to me, well, could you stay afterwards and we walk through this? And then they're surprised, well, you're not getting it like this. Well, then you try it this way. So it's really tapping into that our inner, our higher self, our inner resource, our guidance, our compass, and saying, is this really the truth? And that's with so many, just about every aspect of life, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like a deep programming, because as you were saying, following your true self, and it's like we were taught all these beliefs. So then we believe that these things are our truth. And then when you just start breaking them down, like think about when we're growing up, you'd mentioned parents and all this other stuff. So how did you grow up? Like for me, I grew up with money doesn't grow on trees. Like my dad, everybody called him Rock. Maybe I'm Rock. I'm not Rockefeller. That was his other big one that he would say. But it was always all these thoughts of poverty that just reinforced this notion that, well, wealth was for other people, but not for us. And it's amazing how many other things like TV, news, movies, it's always the rich people are bad and the poor people are the ones that got to overcome it. And then, maybe they'll get rich, maybe they'll just stay poor, but now they're super happy poor, it's like all these things that reinforce this. So part of it, and you can apply this to anything. I'm just applying it to money. So I think what really you get to be 50, and I think kids today aren't getting it as much as we did. I think they're thinking definitely differently. So now you got to kind of unprogram these thoughts of how many years. So now these beliefs, now you have to create new beliefs and make them true, because all these old beliefs, that's what I thought was true. That's what you thought were true. So you go and you did the thing and then you don't get the results. And then you're questioning, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? I don't even know how many times in my head I'd say, what's wrong with me? Like, what's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? What do I need to do different? What do I need to change? And really, you just need to change your beliefs, and then those new beliefs become your truth.
Yeah, that's so true. So what were some of the things that you were able to do that helped you to shift your beliefs? Was there anything in particular or one thing that really helped you, or was it just a combination of things?
I would definitely say it was a combination of things, but here's something that I learned very early on in my 30s. I healed myself of PCOS. I healed myself of polycystic ovarian syndrome through energy work alone. And I realized that it was my thoughts and my feelings that were controlling this. And so I had to let go of all this stuff. And I worked with energy workers, but I didn't seek out how I was going to do it. I just knew in my self, I was like, I can't take these birth control pills. I can't do this stuff anymore. Like, I just don't feel right. Like, I'm going to heal this. And I just made the decision. And I found just making the decision and not worrying, this is in retrospect, obviously, and then not worrying about the how, like all these people just came to me and it just kind of happened. And then, you move on with life, like within about a year and a half, 2 years, like to this day, I no longer have this anymore. And it was different with money for me, because that was like my next thing. And I'm like, why can't I just let it go? Why can't I just not worry about these things? And, I just realized that was something I could control through certain things. But now with this new sort of mindset shift, where I'm going with it now is that deconstruction. So I've done RTT therapy, rapid transformational therapy, kind of like energy work like you do, Kandi. And I've worked with a woman who's amazing that does spiritual emotional attachment release that like literally changed my life overnight, that I stepped into the car and was like, I don't even know what just happened. But anyway, like, so some of them have been very profound and quick, and others have been slow. And then I started working with a mindset coach who has taught me so much and has helped me deconstruct these false beliefs. So I definitely couldn't have done it myself. But again, I didn't, look online and search for a bunch of people. I just sort of put it out that this is what I'm working on. And amazingly, the people just come in. And I know it sounds so easy, but trust me, it's not. Because I've definitely had my seriously low points where I'm like, this isn't working. And why am I doing all this stuff? And you're just like, ah.
Yeah.
But then the next person comes in, because you're still like, no, I know I can do it. It's all I believe still to this day, because I'm not even close to where I want to be, but I still believe I know that it's going to happen now. And I did not have that belief as strong as I did, as strong as I do now, like even 3, 4 months ago.
Yeah. Well, and that's the fact that you even followed that, but you were putting out there, energetically, that was the energy going out to the
Mhm.
universe, right? And
Exactly.
so the universe was responding because you needed something more, and you kept believing in it. At some level, there was a belief there,
Yeah. And I was open. I was open to
and you were
however it
open.
Yeah. So often, one of the things I learned about myself is that most of the time I was living not really in the past, but in the future, and not really living in the present because I get so focused. And I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, but I would get so focused on what I wanted to achieve that I would try to plan it out. And I'm a classic serious overthinker. So I could easily plan out 100 different ways that something could be accomplished. And you kind of focus on this. So the the biggest challenge for me is in letting go of the how. And it's really hard. It's easy to say, oh, just let go of the how and it'll come. But it's like, no, my mind wants to go with, well, if I do this, this, and this, well, then if this, then that. And it's the stories we make up in ourselves. So I had really realized I had found myself more living in the future and to try to create these things that really never came about. So I wasn't even manifesting. And I realized that a lot of the stuff I was projecting into these stories was kind of negative. So now I try to stop myself and say, wait, that's a little negative story you're portraying into the future. Let me go back and change that into a positive. And I think it kept myself, and I think it keeps a lot of people stuck in neutral, where it's like you want to go, but then you stop yourself, and then you want to go, and then you do this thing. So it's like this inner tug of war.
Exactly. And that if you read anything that Nikola Tesla and a number of different people, I won't go through them all, but um, positive emotion, right?
Mm.
Because that's everything is, in the universe is energy, frequency, and vibration. And so being in that positive state, we're going to be able to manifest easier. But yeah, we can just as easily manifest the stuff we don't want or the stuff is not. And it's worrying about the how. I just, I tell people just let it out there and let the universe, spirit, God, whatever that is to you, figure it out. Right. We don't need to worry about that. We just
Yeah,
want to let them know what it is we want.
absolutely. And it is
So,
hard to let it go. I will admit it is hard to let it go. But what somebody had told me once, a friend of mine had said, set an alarm on your phone every 2 hours. And just when that alarm goes off, check in to what you're thinking. What am I thinking? What have I been thinking in the last? Is it good things? Is it bad things? Am I making up stories? Am I thinking about what could go wrong? Or am I projecting myself into this future of amazingness that I'm now taking action towards? And it kind of became a habit for me.
do you still do that today?
I do, I do. I don't do
Oh,
it all day,
wow.
but it's definitely become and it was such a great tip. I was like, "Wow, I never thought to do that." And it just makes you more conscious of what you're consciously, subconsciously thinking, if that makes sense. Because they're sort of these thoughts are all on autopilot, but yet we're conscious of them, but yet they're sort of coming about unconsciously from our subconscious mind. And that was a lot of the word consciousness in different ways.
Yeah, yeah, that is JJ says great idea, which is it's a brilliant idea, and it's really probably so simple.
Yeah, just set the alarm on your phone every 2 hours and check in. Where am I at? What do I need to change? What do I need to adjust? It's bringing that into your awareness where it really was just kind of hanging around in there. And it's there, but you're not really aware, but it's what's driving everything that is like you said, everything that's manifesting whether we want it or not, it's part of that driver.
Yeah, exactly. So we want to, because that's what we're putting out. That's what we're going to get more of. If that's what we're constantly focusing on. And I forget how many. Do you remember how many thousands of thoughts we have a day?
Oh my
It's
gosh.
it's a ridiculous number.
Whatever it is, I probably have 5 times as many. And I'm working on that too.
So you mentioned about the most, like a really profound healing you had. Was that the emotion code work or a different type of session that you had?
It was a woman who practices these emotional attachment releases, and she kind of does it on a way higher level than the emotion code that I was taught, because I've taken that workshop and done those. It was very different. She has a very unique, she's very uniquely in tune and can see things, and it was pretty profound. But I had actually had that shortly after I had learned about the emotion code, and was like, oh my gosh, this is like the emotion code way amplified. And there's probably few people out there like her. She's a very special. Her name is Danielle Lipton. If you can look it up, she does her own stuff as well. But very, very in tune and very, very profound for me.
You said she's a what as well?
She does a thing on YouTube as well on
Oh,
Tuesday,
okay.
Thursday. So she's on YouTube, and you can look her up if you want to look her up. But yeah, so it did relate to my emotion code work, but oh my gosh, it was, yeah.
And would you say that today, like you have really dropped a lot of your beliefs from an earlier age or before 30? Um,
Yeah.
and shifted? And how have things gotten better? And what are some of the things that you really resonate with today?
I would say that I've dropped a lot, and I've dropped a lot more. What I found working through my coach Grace is that most of these things that we're really stuck in is all to do with relationships. A lot of times with the parent. And for me, I moved into my sister's house about a year and a half ago to help take care of my mom who has dementia. So in doing so, I would, in now hindsight, now realize that the fastest path to spiritual growth is, well, move in and take care of a dementia parent. Because it'll put you on a path that you're either going to go running from or say, no, I'm going to dive into, because everything that you've not that you've avoided is now right here. It's all now right in front of your face, and you can either deal with it and let it go and heal from it, or just continue down your path. And I chose to deal with it and to heal it. And I realized the things that are true and the things that are false, the false beliefs that I've had, and they were coming up, and they were coming up so fast, things I didn't even realize, things I thought I was over, but how they had affected me. And it's always, hindsight's 21 or 2020. And now literally dealing with them straight on through journaling and energy work and some other techniques that I do too, which I know we'll get into. But this is what's definitely helping my path. And I'm not saying go and do what I did. It's just, however I had to quickly progress through this, I do think that I was put here not only to help her, but to heal myself.
That's just so true when you and you are confronted. You said that all these things that you thought you were beyond and let go of, now it's almost like tenfold. It's like, whoa, where'd that come from out of nowhere, right? It kind of
Yeah.
flips you upside down and you think, am I going backwards?
Yeah. Yeah. And you had a similar experience, so I know that you can relate.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so now, as I want to talk a little bit about your podcast, because you do have you interview people, or I should say, you have conversations with people from entrepreneurs to integrative medicine practitioners and doctors, and how do I know earlier we were talking about people just sort of show up. Is that what you would say, is that they just sort of are in your path and you get to talking and you decide to do, because you really have a wealth of information on your site. Like you can find, if you're looking to you've got something going on and you want to tap in and you want to try to resolve something. If me personally, if I'm not getting to it, if I'm just not getting that answer, I could go to your site and just take a look at it, all the people that you've talked with. And I'm sure I'll zoom in on several different people that could be really supportive. So just curious how you come up about some of the people that you talk with.
Some of the people I've met just by chance through networking in the local area. Other people like you, Kandi, you and I met on an Akashic record reading practice group. And I'm
We
like,
did.
I really resonated with you. And I just shot you an email. I'm like, let me just send her an email and see if she wants to be on my podcast, see if that's something you want. And thankfully you did. So sometimes it's just going out of our comfort zone and asking people. And I've asked some other people that I've seen and I've gotten no response. But then I've asked other people, like, I think it was the third guest. If you go to my podcast, the third guest I had, I'm like, let me just do it and see if he'll come on. And he's since been on twice, and I'd like to get him back as well. So sometimes it's just shooting in the dark, and you don't know what's the worst. And I think we build these fears up inside of them, and really, what's the worst thing that can happen? It gets lost in their email. They just are like, yeah, I got better things to do. Whatever. You just got to let that go. So I've kind of put myself, whoever comes on is meant to come on, and everybody has so much to offer, including you, just for other people. So I'm just trying to bring all those people together, that modalities that people may not have heard of, practitioners that people may not know exactly what you do, and then reach out to people. And I always encourage everybody to give their own information so that you can get business. And I try to make it a win-win. But yeah, it's just bringing a lot of things that I would say that my spiritual awakening happened a while ago, but it's gone up and down. But as many people know, there's a huge spiritual awakening going on right now.
Yeah, there's a tremendous awareness. I try to, I tend to use the word awareness now, and I think we're always evolving too. When we had that initial, whenever that was for me, I don't know, it was a long time ago, but, really fully stepping into it and listening. I think, what is that the truth for me? Or, I too, the same thing as, and I don't know, do you ever follow the medical medium?
Oh, no, I don't.
So was dealing with a number of things, and I am a really big believer in trying to manage my own health, not trying, managing my own health, right? Through, doing things that seem right, like moving, out in nature, love being out in nature. It's very, and a lot of people look at me, if I'm like, no, I need to be outside every day. I have to be on the grass or on the beach or whatever. I have to be touching the ground. And nature, stretching, diet, my nutrition is really important. And, I was going through some things about 6, 7, no, probably 10 years. And finally, around 2017, I found information around the medical medium, and I started to follow everything he was putting out there. And I have about 5 of his books.
Wow.
And it just made a lot of sense. It's nutrition based, it's, just healthy food, and which was already a big part of who I am, but it was understanding certain foods and how they can feed viruses. And it was just eye-opening. I've learned a lot about herbs and different things. So it's been really, truly helpful as part of my path as well. And, he may not be for everyone, but he has a lot of resources and a lot of good information. But, it's, part of when we want to heal and we want to release, and, we're holding on to a lot of things. Sometimes I think too, just having a really solid, nutritious diet. I hate to say the word diet, really, just nutrition, eating foods that really support us, support the entire body, right? Supportive. I like his, JJ says I like his books. Oh, good. Yeah,
I'll check them out.
Yeah, you'll have to check them out. I actually do the celery juice in the morning.
Oh, nice.
I actually healed quite a few. When I say quite a few things, I think they're just all related. That's one of the things I learned from my parents. If you have something and then you go on this to address that, well, it's not really getting down to the root. It's masking whatever's going on with you, right? And we need to get to that root in order to have a different outcome, to change what's happening, right? So I started following in 2017. I think that's when his first book was released. And honestly, it really did change my life, that it helped tremendously. And like you, I was going through the same thing. Daniel at the Tree of Life organization.
Yep, that is her. That is her.
Oh, okay. So it really helped a lot. And I still do the celery juice. I still drink the wild blueberry, what is it? The heavy metal detox wild blueberry.
Oh,
yeah. So there's a lot of good in helping yourself when it comes to what can I do with symptoms I'm experiencing. And it'd be interesting because PCOS is definitely something in his books that he talks about.
yeah.
And so, yeah. So that's another really good one. I don't know that you could get him on your podcast though.
Never hurts to try. Never
He's
hurts
pretty
to
big.
try.
He's this is true. He's got all sorts of free resources on Facebook and Instagram. He's always coming on live, and he's got a podcast, and he's on Rumble. He's on everything, TikTok, you name it. He's out there. YouTube. Yeah. He's censored in some ways, but it's just all natural. We're not talking about injecting anything or, taking anything that's, man-made, right? Everything he talks about, it's sprouting up from the ground, right? It's coming from Mother Nature, and
Yeah, because it's from the food and the water that we put into our bodies to the thoughts that we think in our head. So it like you just said, it's all connected. The food, the nutrition,
it is
the thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Richie's Reach, and Lori and Sharon, JJ. So good to see everyone here. If anyone has any questions, we have a couple other things I want to talk to you about. Sure. Okay. JJ says his website is helpful. I saw him live. Oh, wow. The light blast had me buzzing for 3 days. Wow. That's amazing.
Well, speaking of coincidences, I'll just share this little tiny story. So I was listening to a podcast on my way to an appointment this morning, and I go to this place and they do the network's final form of chiropractic. So I go there and they're talking about this Betelgeuse star that had exploded in our time frame back around 1400, but we're just now getting the light, I guess, from this star. It's starting to come into our atmosphere. And they were talking about it, and the star's name is Betelgeuse. So I'm laying on the table in my appointment, and all of a sudden that Calypso song comes on. The song from Beetlejuice.
Yes. So validation.
And I'm like sitting there, and the woman goes, "Well, I didn't expect this on next on the playlist." And I said, "That's for me." And it was
that
so
absolutely is for you.
How often do you hear that song? You know what I mean? And it was just so funny. And I told her the little story. So yeah, so things do come into your life, and I don't believe that there are any coincidences. So
no, there aren't synchronicities, and that just reinforcing that. Yeah, that is the truth. Whenever we hear anything or anything pops up like that, I love that. I love when they're sending us messages, and, probably because you've done so much work, right? Energetic work. And that's maybe, physical body, the emotional body, spiritual, mental. We can tune in and we hear those things, because how often are we too, there's too much chaos going on, or we're not getting quiet enough to notice those synchronicities, right? Yeah, I mean, that's just, that to me, validation. I love that.
It said, pay attention to whatever they're talking about.
Wow, that is hilarious. That's funny.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my
And the
gosh.
fact that she said, I wasn't expecting to hear.
I know, it was even more validation. I'm like, this is a little wild.
Oh, I love that. I love it, love it, love it. So, why don't you talk a little bit because you mentioned about these patches, the light frequency. Maybe explain a little bit about what those are. Like, we talked a little bit about them the other day, but I could use a little bit more information about and how they may have helped you or how it's helping other people that that may be using them.
Yeah, so they look like this. I just took the little tab on, so I'll like kind of show that. But there's a little frequency embedded where you see that white thing. So that frequency targets something specific. In the case of that particular patch, our body's latent heat activates it. It sends a frequency up to our brain and it says, hey, start doing this thing, start activating and elevating GHK copper peptide. And what's that going to do? It's going to activate your stem cells. So your stem cells are going to start, activating more. And our stem cells are really our youth. It's the repair and regeneration of everything in our body. We get a cut, stem cells come and become a skin cell. We have something wrong with our liver or our stomach, whatever it is, our stem cells become that cell. They're the only cells in our body that can do that. So I found these through my business. They came to me as a client and I've been using them ever since. They're helping so many people. They've helped myself. I've improved my eyesight. My skin has never looked better. I had carpal tunnel that I no longer have, just a whole little slew of things. And even I was fairly healthy, but they've kind of been my standard getting through life, with all the stuff that we're being hit with toxins and EMFs and all this stuff that sometimes it seems hard to avoid. We all want to detox that stuff out. So I've been using these and, I've added it to my entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, right.
and not only added it that, but I just believed in it so much because, and speaking of mindset shift, I had done, it is network marketing. I won't hide that fact, but I had done a network marketing company about, I don't know, 15, 18 years ago and was like, I'll never do network marketing again. And as I said, they kind of came on as a client, and about 2.5 years in and working with people and using them, I was like, yeah, I think that's a mindset thing. And it was something I really had to shift and let go of what had happened in the past to be like, you know what? I was on my way down to move here to help out my sister with my mom. And I said, you know what? I'm going to focus on this, on my networking meetings and all this stuff that I do. So I just decided to do that. But again, it took a mindset shift for me to do that because I did have it in my mind that because I had this experience, I wasn't going to do it again. So it was closing me off to an opportunity. So I just shifted my mindset and said, no, I'm going to go forward with this. And it's been amazing ever since.
Well, good. And you shifted, it's
Oh,
in the past, you would have been like, oh, heck no. But there
yep.
was something to it that was intriguing. You found yourself, you were benefiting from it personally. And it's that little voice, or our little internal guidance or compass saying,
Yeah.
this is right for you, for me. And
Yeah.
how often do we project, right? We project from what has happened in the past to like, oh, that's going to happen in the future, right? And we should really only be in this present moment. It's all we have, right? A minute ago, what I just said is already in the past. It doesn't really
I
exist,
know.
right?
It's crazy. Yeah, so
Exactly.
it is, but they get stuck as little traumas. And when I first got involved with energy work all those years ago, that's really what helped me heal the PCOS. It was all my own thoughts and feelings and these little traumas. And, a lot of it tied right into the sort of female system and the uterus and all of the ovaries and all this stuff about like, well, I don't want to grow up. I want to be a little girl. And it was like all these little things about being scared of womanhood and all these thoughts that you have that then get stuck. And then when those thoughts get stuck, they present as disease in the body, and it could be the littlest trauma that you never even thought of, but for some reason it just bothered you. So it's about just letting those things go. So I know it
Yeah.
sounds easier said
It
than
sounds right, right? Well, that's probably a good segue into then, so we met as as you mentioned earlier, on a Akashic Records practice group, or in an Akashic Records practice group. And so you obviously are an Akashic Records reader. But you also, which I know a little bit about because I used to rent space from a woman that practices emotion code.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that you have taken all of your training and your knowledge and wisdom and are actually put the two together. You offer an Akashic reading and then immediately following, I guess, the emotion code work. But talk to me a little bit first about the Akashic records. What got you interested in that? What led you to that?
Well, I had heard about it years ago from a client, and she had done the readings, and then I kind of forgot about it, but I would hear it in and out. And I was listening to a podcast one day, and it was Next Level Soul, and he had interviewed a woman called Laura Coe is her name. So she really intrigued me, and she was offering this Akashic record training class. I think it was not even expensive. It was like $25 or something like that. And for whatever reason, I was like, oh, I really want to do that. I was just so like, I want to do this. And so I went on and I did it. And it was, I felt it right away. And then I shortly thereafter got an email from Cindy and this Akashic record practice group that they were starting up and inviting me in. And it must be from people that mostly have done Laura Coe's training. And I admit I was intimidated at first, so I kept practicing on myself. And I think about a month to 2 months after I'd taken the class and I practiced on myself, I clicked that join button on the Zoom. And it was a little intimidating because I didn't know who was there, but just a very, as you know, open space where really you're there to practice getting better, getting in tune. And we talk about, well, what worked for you, what didn't work for you, what helps, what makes it easier to connect. So it's been fantastic doing that. And as I was doing that, before I had done that, my sister and I had taken a class with Dr. Bradley Nelson up at the Omega Institute, which was fabulous because I think there was only 4 of us. It was such an incredible experience.
Oh, wow. At Omega.
At Omega. And, you know, we basically, and I had already read the books and stuff, but it's so much better to have it hands-on practice. So I had been doing the emotion code on myself every day. And then it kind of dawned on me after I had the Akashic reading, you know, after I've been practicing this, well, what happens if I go, so I do this in the mornings, or I still do. So I do go into my own Akashic records and think, okay, so I want to get clarity around something. So now I get clarity around it. Well, are there any emotions that are blocked that are going to prevent me from from embracing this clarity or moving forward with action with whatever clarity that I got? So then I would do the emotion code right after I was done with the Akashic records. And I just thought it was such a good little tool to work hand in hand. Okay, go in and get the clarity, then release the emotions that can help manifest that and help clear that pathway even faster. But I kind of came up with it. I just said Akashic record reading and emotional release session. What I've ended up.
That's amazing. I love that. Well, I'd love if you could explain a little bit more about how you go about with the emotion code work. Like, what does that look like? You know, if you're working with somebody, are you in person with them? Are you doing it remotely?
You can do it in person or remote. For where I'm at, I've mostly done it in remote, but I have done a lot with my family, and it's all through muscle testing. So if anybody doesn't know what muscle testing is what I like to call our body's own individual lie detector test, because your body kind of always knows the truth. And I remember we did it I first learned about it with my daughter. I'd taken her to this woman, and she held out her hand, and she would, you know, push on her hand up and down with either a supplement or a food to see whether her body needed or whether her body liked that, and then created a protocol based on that. But you can kind of ask your body anything, you know, is this the right job for me? Is this the right person for me? You know, and you could kind of go about your day doing all that stuff. So you can also do it with what's stuck. So he has a whole list of emotions. So what I would do with the person, if they were in front of me, I would do that muscle testing. But if they're not, you kind of ask them permission, can I muscle test you? And I do this little ring and ring. And if I said, and you can all do this right here, right now with me, because anybody can do this. I am definitely not special. This is something everybody can do. So if you sat here and just like, I love the way he described it, as if you were holding a ladybug. So there's not like, you're not, using all your might, but you're just interlocking kind of gently. And I'll say to myself, is my name Kandi? And I can easily pull my hands apart because obviously my name's not Kandi. So if I do, is my name Michelle? And, you don't even have to, it's like, yeah, I can't break that. So you can do this with do I have a stuck emotion? Do I have a stuck emotion relating to, and I always try to get as specific as I can. Do I have a stuck emotion related to making money in my Lifeway business? And then yes or no. And then you kind of go through the emotions, you determine what emotion it is. And once you find the emotion, you kind of just take your hand, or some people take a magnet and you just swipe down the back of your thing 3 times. So it's kind of like, yeah, get off me. I don't need that emotion anymore. And you wish it well and you're good. But what's really cool about it is once you get into it, is you can do this generationally. So I'm a firm believer that any personal growth work that we do on ourselves, we are healing our past and our future generations and our generations here, like my children. And you can also do generational healing that way. Sometimes emotions will come up as, is it my emotion or is this emotion passed on? Is it passed on through my mother, through my father? Is it passed on? You can, even muscle test, is it 5 generations? Is it 10 generations? And then what's cool when he does it there, it's like the spirits of everyone come and you do it 10 times instead of 3. And then it's, and you just release it. It sounds so simple, but it really works. And I highly recommend his book or watching his videos. He has a YouTube channel as well, because it is really incredible work that we can all be doing on ourselves and on our loved ones. And for those generations of people in our family that we've never even met, but yet we're sort of carrying on whatever energetic issues or traumas were stuck with them. And we can release them. And once you release them, it goes forwards and backwards, which is so incredible. And I did not know that, but it was a really amazing thing to go to that workshop and be a part of it. I loved it.
Lori wants to know Bradley, right? Nelson.
Yeah, Dr. Bradley Nelson.
I participated on a webinar once years ago with him, and then I mentioned that a couple of I'll put it in the chat. Bradley Nelson, right?
Yeah.
I had a couple of sessions, and we went. Was it on my paternal or maternal side? And then we went through it down, and then they used the magnet at the end, and it was specifically related to some health issue I was having at the time.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
So people don't realize that those stuck emotions, that's how they show up. They show up as dis-ease, or they show up as patterns repeating over and over in your life, or manifesting the things that we don't want. Either way, they show up.
Right. No, that's so true. Right. Oh, I spelled emotion wrong.
Oh.
And it does. And, we want to clear out that generational trauma, and, so we can just move forward. Right.
Yeah. And collectively we are. I mean, imagine if all of us were doing emotion code on ourselves every day. I mean, everyone coming in, however you believe that they come in, would be coming in so much clearer and cleaner. So we're not spending our lives here on this earth and this experience just trying to clean up the past.
Clean up the past, right? With the truth of,
Yes.
who we are and who we've always meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
And, we've got that wealth within them. I mean, once we can get beyond and let some of these things, and I know a lot of people that, and people that are watching, have been working through, this kind of stuff for a long time. But, when we can get beyond those old beliefs and patterns and myths and some was well-meaning, some of it wasn't intentional. We know that.
Yeah,
but once we can break free of that, But we have the answers within us. We have everything right within us.
Yeah.
We can talk about opening up our Akashic records, but we don't. Yeah. I mean, maybe in the beginning, if we just sit quietly and we're just checking in with ourselves each day, and we can just allow ourselves to be and be raw about it and not worry about what's going to come up. But that's when we can really identify what is it we're still hanging on to, or what information doesn't serve us anymore, and what direction should I go in? Does this feel right? Because I mean, the information's there. That's why I love the name The Wealth Within Us, because truly we have all this information.
Yeah, we do.
Everything we want.
Yeah. And I did very intentionally think of the name because and for the exact reason that you said, I'm like, how can I describe what I want to bring? And it's about empowering ourselves and knowing that no one is special. Like, we can all do this. We were all born the same. Like, we can all tap into this. It's just whether or not we choose to. Right.
And some of us choose earlier. Some of us just start later. And a lot of people will hold, I'm a late bloomer. Hey, you know what? Everyone has their path. So, maybe it was designed that way. Maybe that's what you agreed to do. You wanted to do it later on. You wanted to have these other experiences. So I think Pima Chodron used to say, or says, start from where you are. Like, start right where you are, right from where you are, whenever that is, right?
Yeah.
And you're right, Lori, so many are in the subconscious. You're exactly right. Yep.
Yeah.
Guidance with generational trauma cycles. Yeah.
And that's what muscle testing really does, tap into our subconscious. That's really what you're tapping into, your true self. Kind of like the Akashic records. I always look at the Akashic records as, and I'm not special. Anybody can learn. For $25, go on Laura Co. Learn how to do it. You know what I mean? If it so interests you. But I think what we're really tapping into is our higher self, this soul that's within us that has been around probably with what I believe, journey after journey, lifetime after lifetime, here trying to improve and get better every single moment of every single day, whatever we perceive as time.
Yeah. And Lori, too, you're asking, requesting the higher realm and spirit team to assist. And that's the other thing, is just ask, because they'll gently guide us. We'll get the information. I say it all the time. I get a lot more information when I practice Reiki, myself Reiki, than in my meditation. And I don't know why that is, but I can hear. I'm quiet, and sometimes it takes 3 weeks, but I don't stress over it, because not everything is going to be immediate. But I get that information when I'm really quiet, when I have a question, and we can get to it. We just have to be patient with it and not worry about how it's going to come or when.
Exactly. And we all receive it differently. So just because one person, and being in the Akashic Records practice group, you realize that people get the information very differently. I get it differently than some people do, and people get it differently than I do. It's just, we're all in tune in our own way, and we all have our own unique strengths and abilities,
Yeah, that's so true. We do. And I said it earlier. I get it. I learn a little differently, and people want to put me in a, feel it this way or feel into it. And I'm like, I'm not getting it. Like, I'm getting something in a different way. And I'm kind of like, they kind of want to box me in. And then they find out after they, have a little one-on-one time with me, like, yeah, you're not getting it that way. Okay, well, try this. Yeah. Now that works for me. And I would say more often than not, I tend to get information differently,
Yeah.
And I don't always get it the same way, even on my intuitive side. A lot of it is clairvoyant, but a lot of it is just, I don't know. How did you know that? I don't know. It just came to me. I don't know. I'm channeling, I guess, or my higher self is it just bubbles up, and this is what I'm getting. I don't know. Sometimes it's audible, but more times than not, it's a feeling that I've had, or it's just information flowing in, like, quickly. I have to grab it quickly.
Yeah. And imagine if we taught our kids this way, like they try to even put our kids in school into this box, and this is how you learn and this is how it's done. It's like, my son was very kinesthetic, and I remember he had one teacher that would let him stand up during his test because he just had to move around. That's how he got the information.
Oh, wow.
And I was grateful that he was allowed to do that, but it is all kids learn so differently, and we just stick them in that system, in that box, and this is how you learn. If you do well, you do. If not, well, that's too bad.
Yeah.
What
So Lori cared for her parents for 15 years. So we understand that. And she went into the higher realm 4 years ago, brought everything full circle. Yes, healing is a lifelong process, and that's okay.
And I think healing, and what I've learned is that healing those core relationships, especially with the parent, it almost like clears the way. If you're willing to put in the work, it clears the way for so much. That's when the abundance starts coming in, because you realize, oh my gosh, yeah, some of the stuff I believed it wasn't true, and it was just people trying to protect me. So it wasn't out of malice or anything. It was it's almost always out of love.
Right. Exactly. Always out of love. Well, Sharon Donnelly, you're welcome. I'm glad you could participate. I think she's driving. So hopefully I've said hello to everybody. I saw Fatima and Lori and Richie's Reach and JJ and yeah, I think I got everybody. But thank you for being here. So I have all of Michelle's information in the description. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Michelle, in terms of how to get in touch with you? Or
yeah. So if you would like to listen to my podcast or even participate on my podcast, it is thewealthwithin.us. And it's also on YouTube and all the other channels, but everything's on there. The Akashic Records stuff is on there. Also, just Michelle, Michelle, Blais, Blais.com. There's all of my website design, my more techie side. I think that's this interesting balance of techie and spiritual creative. It's very strange.
No, it all comes together. Maybe you were an Arcturian, because Arcturians, I think, are known for healing and technology. And
yeah, I could have been. I'll have to look into that. I'll have to look into that. I was drawn to Orion. I think that's where we're.
Oh,
I'm not sure. That's something I haven't delved into yet, but that was my hunch on it. But we could talk all day.
Oh, I know. Exactly. Well, if everyone would please like, share, and subscribe to Michelle's channel. Take a look at all the wealth of information that she has out there. Maybe something will resonate and you can dive deeper into that. And Michelle, is there anything else? Oh, I just want to mention one more thing. You can, at this time, get a Akashic reading combined with the emotion code release. And it's a donation basis only, and it's for a short period of time. So take advantage of it, guys.
Thank you.
If you want. Anything else?
No, just Michelle? Thank you, Kandi. Okay. I love what you're doing. And I think you and I are both on the same path and helping people and sharing all this amazing information with everybody.
So thank you so much today. Oh, thank you, Richie's Reach. Excellent. Appreciate it. And Richie's Reach. Everybody here, I don't know if Lori, if you have a channel, Sharon, well, everyone really. If I know JJ does, Tuta Speaks. Lori, do you have a channel? Let's see if she responds. But Richie's Reach has a channel, and he just a really cool 30-day celebrating you challenge, which was very, very deep.
I'll have to go over there.
So if you do, just go ahead and put it in the I think Richie's Reach is at Richie's Reach. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for showing up today. Thank you, Michelle. This was such a pleasure. I really enjoyed it. Michelle, who is the entrepreneur, truth seeker, and is the host of the podcast, The Wealth Within Us. And until next time, bye, everyone. Thank you again.